Hello everyone. Welcome back to another another video of this booktube channel. Today we are not reviewing a book, we're doing a wrap-up / predictive month of reading, this time for August / September. And this one will be the first video that I have planned up for a few weeks where I'm gonna be away, so my replies to comments might be a bit slow, and there will be a couple of weeks where there won't be anything put out. Just hold on, and once I'm back, schedule will be back to normal and we'll be back in the reviews. But let's go into the wrap up for this month. But before that, don't forget to subscribe, like the content, and comment away what was your best book of August. I had a couple of ones that I'm really proud and have a lot to talk about, but I want to know from you. So for the ones that don't know what this video is about, basically I'm gonna go through the books I read in August and I'm gonna give a brief overview of what I thought about it, say my score, but if you want a more detailed review, then I will also have my videos. And the other thing I'll do is I'll predict what books I will read in September. Of course, this is not for sure. There might be some changes if a book isn't around or I'm kind of sick of reading the same type of book, so there's always room for changes, but let's try. Regarding August, this is a better month than July. I was able to finish 5 books and 5 manga volumes in August, which I don't know if you've seen the last video I did about wrap-ups. In July I finished 5 books but only 3 manga volumes, so there's a tiny bit more, but also the books that I read were all bigger than the ones in July, so there's also that, which means that in total, in number of pages, I read practically 4,000 pages, which is 500 more than the previous month. However, this month was also kind of mixed. They had the same range of scores, going from 3.4 up to 5 stars. Which ones got which? Let's find out, and let's start with the books that I am currently reading. At the moment, I'm reading The Gathering Storm, which is the 12th book of Wheel of Time. As you can see, I've moved really fast this month with the Wheel of Time series, reading a total of 3 Wheel of Time books, and that's crazy because each one of these is quite big, and I'm already halfway through this one as well, so the buddy read is blasting through, and besides, we're getting into the really good parts of Wheel of Time, so it's just gonna get faster. This is also the first book written by Brandon Sanderson, and yeah, the writing is slightly different. I will talk about this in the review once I do it, but I'm still enjoying it thoroughly. And I cannot wait to talk about it more with you guys, but of course I have to finish it first. My other read is The Dragon of Jin Sayang by K.S. Veloso. Cover like this. This is a broken binding edition, as you can see, with the sprayed edges and everything. And yes, I'm still reading this book. I'm currently 2/3 into it, so I'm past half, and hopefully I'll finish it on my holidays. And I mean, I will try to push through to finish it on my holidays because I want to get done with this book and read other stuff. I can say that up till now it's slightly better than the second one, but I'm still not fully convinced. So, and then my third ongoing read is The Rise of Endymion by Dan Simmons. This is the last book of the Hyperion Cantos. I am just past halfway, or 2/3, more or less 2/3 as well, and it's been a great adventure. I'm not sure yet if it's as good as the third one, but it's still an amazing story. It has great themes. I love reading the themes. Just the plot sometimes not sure that it has me sold yet, but the ending might be completely plot twisty, which I love, and therefore might sell me out like that. Just gotta keep reading, and it's also quite a bit of a big book, so it's taking me a bit longer, but hopefully I'll finish it on my holidays as well. Okay, now that we've gone through all my current reads, what did I actually finish in the month of August? We're gonna start with Wheel of Time, because I finished Crossroads of Twilight. This book, I've already reviewed it on the channel. The review is up, so you can check it out. It has this thumbnail, and you have the cards as well floating around. This is the 10th book of the Wheel of Time series, written by Robert Jordan, only this one. And it's the end of the slog, thank God, because this book was definitely the worst in terms of slog. There wasn't a lot of character development, the pacing was very off, so a lot of not so good things. Of course, there are always moments that are worth it, but yeah, this was definitely the weakest of the whole series so far. And the score Goodreads has also reflects that. Because on Goodreads, this book has a score of 3.78 out of 5. And the score I gave was 3.4 out of 5. So as you can see, it does have one of the lowest scores for me and for Goodreads. I'm a bit harsher than Goodreads, but yeah. And at least this means that this book was actually the one that I gave the lowest score, and from now onwards we'll only have better scores. So something to look forward to. The next book I finished was Skyward by Brandon Sanderson. This is a sci-fi young adult book, part of a series as well, a quartet if I'm not mistaken, called Skyward. And this one was a very, very pleasant surprise. It has excellent character growth, it has amazing themes explored, especially considering that this is for a young adult audience. I thought even an adult audience would benefit greatly from reading this book. And of course, amazing world building, that's always a guarantee with Brandon Sanderson. This was also a fast read and I really enjoyed it. My review should come out next week and you'll have more details on what I liked and what I didn't like. But for now, you can know that on Goodreads, this book has a score of 4.48, which is amazing considering it has tons of people rating it. And my score, my personal score, was 4.8 out of 5. So as you can see, I even loved it more than the average person on Goodreads, and I have a lot to comment about it. There's only just a couple of things that were a bit iffy, but not enough to give me below 4.8, because it's really, really good. I mean, on Goodreads, this book for me is a 5. After that, I finished another Wheel of Time book, but this time it wasn't book 10 or 11, it was the prequel, New Spring. Yes, I only read the prequel after the 10th book, and this is because it's according to the publication order, which is the one I prefer to read. You can also read it at the start. It has its advantages and disadvantages. I talk about this in the review of this book, which I have it scheduled. You shall see it in 2 weeks, hopefully. But yeah, I read it after the 10th book. It was a good read, it was fast, it was enjoyable, it really refreshed my palate after the slog, and yeah, it got a good score as well because of it. If you don't know what this is about, this is a prequel set around 20 years before the events of The Eye of the World, which is the first book in Wheel of Time, which is an epic fantasy series composed of 14 books plus this prequel. It's a very sweet book, and it's one of the shortest considering that Wheel of Time, all the books are really big, so it's a fast read. On Goodreads, this book has a score of 4.07 out of 5, which again shows that the scores have gone back up, and my actual score was 4.4 out of 5, which I think it deserves. It has really good advantages. Even if you read it as a first book in the series, I think you can still get tons of things out of it, and it has its advantages once you start the series per se. And as you can see, I'm constantly giving higher and higher scores than Goodreads. So I guess I was very positive in this month while reading the books that I read. And if that wasn't enough, I decided, why don't we read some more epic fantasy? And so I read Valor by John Gwynne. Valor is the second book of a quartet. It seems that this month there were a lot of quartets being read, but this one, the quartet is named The Faithful and the Fallen. I've read the first book in this series called Malice. I've reviewed it. The review is up. You can check it with this thumbnail. And I thought it was good. It had a good premise. It promised also a lot in terms of the epicness and the scale of it. So I was really excited to read this book. And I didn't think it was as good as the first one. It has some good things. I think there was a bit of a setup for the next books, and so this one kind of had that middle book syndrome. Not too strong, but also, again, not as good as the first one. I do expect that the scores will increase from now onwards as we get to the third and then to the final book. So this one was just a small blip, but not too bad of a blip. And I mean, this is just my opinion. On Goodreads, people think that this book is great because it has a score of 4.43 out of 5. That's pretty good for a second book in a series. My score, the personal score I gave, was a 4 out of 5. Again, I didn't think it was that good in certain aspects that we'll talk about it in the review, but still a good book overall. I mean, 4 is a great score. And the last book that I read was more Wheel of Time, you guessed it, and that was with Knife of Dreams, which is the 11th book of Wheel of Time, and the last one written solely by Robert Jordan. This book was much better than the previous one, I mean number 10. The slog was over, you could sense it, a lot of the characters became super interesting. Of course, there were still some remnants of the slog that were tying up, but even that didn't feel as sluggish as the previous books because we had that counterbalance of the good things happening at the same time. So it made us read a lot faster. It was a lot more engaging, and I shall say all of this again in the review that I shall publish, but for now you can see that I really enjoyed it a lot more. And I think the scores also reflect that, because on Goodreads this book has a score of 4.19 out of 5. Again, better than the book number 10, which was 3 point something. And my Bookworm score was a 4.4 out of 5, which shows that we're back into above 4 scores, which I love, and I bet that the next ones will just keep on increasing and increasing. And those were all the books I read. Like I said, I also read 5 manga volumes. Those were all One Piece volumes 40 to 44, and I'm trying to grab them and show them here, but as you can see, those are it. I'm not going to show individually, there's so many. And this pretty much finishes the Water 7/Enies Lobby arc, and it was so good. It really brought tears, especially that ending of the volume 44. I was trying really hard to hold them in, but it was very, very hard. On Goodreads, I'm gonna say the scores for all of them. They'll show up here. On Goodreads, the scores were respectively 4.59, 4.68, 4.59 again, and then 4.58 and 4.68. So as you can see, all the scores are pretty close. Some are the same, so there's a consistency in terms of the scoring for these volumes. After all, it's all the same arc, so the same kind of story, if you can say so. My scores were respectively 4.8, 4.8, 4, 4.6, and 5. That last volume was really, really good, and yeah, I cannot explain it without saying many spoilers. We can do a chat about what happens in this arc and why is it so emotional, but for now I'm gonna stay quiet about it. And those were all the books/manga that I read in August. Now we're moving on to the next section of this video, which is what books shall I be reading in September? Well, when I finish The Gathering Storm, because at this rate I'm sure I'll finish The Gathering Storm, shall be reading the 13th and second last book of Wheel of Time, which is called Towers of Midnight. This was again written by Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan, and this is just getting so close to the ending. It's getting so epic, and it's just making me want to read more and more and faster as we go. But that also means that there will only be one book left, and then that kind of makes me sad. It's a bittersweet feeling. You know when you love a series so much that you want to finish it, but at the same time you don't want to finish it? That's it. If I finish The Dragon of Jin Sayang, which I am making the best effort to finish it, I will start reading on my Kindle either The Velvet Rage, which I spoke about in the previous video in the July wrap-up, or I shall be reading this web novel recommended by a friend, which is called Lord of the Mysteries. I don't know much about it. My friend just recommended, saying that I will probably like it, so I'm gonna give it a try, read the first volume, and see how it goes. Wish me luck, and wish me good reads as well. But yeah, that's the Kindle read for me. And once I read The Rise of Endymion, I will fulfill my promise that I made in the previous video, which was to read Blood of the Mantis by Adrian Tchaikovsky. This is the third book of the Shadows of the Apt series, which is his fantasy series, and I'm very keen to go back to this world. It was fun, a fun world with a fun system in terms of magic and world building. So I'm curious to see what Adrian Tchaikovsky does with the rest of the series, because I mean there's 10 books, this is only the third. The second was giving hints that there were epic things going to happen, so I'm very keen to see about that. After that, my plan is to read Parable of the Sower by Octavia E. Butler. This is a science fiction dystopian book. It was part of a trilogy that was never finished because Octavia E. Butler passed away before finishing the third book. So you have Parable of the Sower and Parable of the Talents, which is the second book. And I've heard only good things, amazing things really, about these two books. So I'm very keen to read this first one. I know it will be a bit heavy, but I'm excited to read it. And after that, because the reading will be a bit heavier, I will be jumping into the Discworld with some more light, fun, and funny reading by Terry Pratchett, and I shall be reading Sorcery, which is the second book of the Witches series, and I said that I would try to read it in the previous month, but I couldn't get to it, so I'm gonna try and get to it this month. And of course, amongst all of this, I shall be reading more manga volumes. Hopefully, I'll get into the next arc and be able to talk a bit more about it, aside from just, oh, we're just at the intro. So let's see how it goes. And yeah, that will be about it in terms of expected reads in September. Again, like, because I'm on holidays, I will be doing a lot of traveling, etc. Might allow me for a lot of reads, but also family duties and all of the others will not allow for a lot of reading. So there will be that balance. Let's see how it goes. But let me know what you think. What are your reads for September? Are you excited to read something? Are you excited to recommend me something? Comment down below. Let me know what is your best recommendation for the month of September. Maybe I'll grab it and see if I'm curious enough. And I hope you have really good reads. And again, if you're a new subscriber, if you are new here at the channel, subscribe, like the content, and I shall be seeing you on Sundays and Thursdays, okay? See you soon.